Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is once again showing that she has no idea what the word insurrection actually means, and that she has no understanding of what nuance is. So on Tuesday, 60 peaceful protesters were arrested inside the Capitol building on Tuesday for illegally protesting. So the activists entered the building as tourists and then demonstrated and picketed inside the Capitol building. Now, you're not allowed to do that. Many MAGA supporters found that out on January 6th. And so, of course, Greene took these pro-Palestinian protesters and accused them of being insurrectionists, which makes no sense. Insurrectionists are insurrectionists. Peaceful protesters are peaceful protesters. Were all the people in January 6th insurrectionists? No. Was there an insurrection? Yes. Now, Capitol rioters. Now, there were, for example, the Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio was convicted of seditious conspiracy, but nobody was charged with insurrection, right? It doesn't mean there wasn't an insurrection. And really, the people at the bottom, less important than the people at the top, i.e. Trump. And he's one of them. And of course, there's also a lot of co-conspirators involved as well. So that is not the same as the MAGA guy who went into a building with a Trump flag and took selfies. Because that did happen. Okay. And again, the people that were charged on January 6th with parading and picketing had very minimal sentences. Okay. Probably out by now, if they even got really any jail time involved in that. And that's fine. Right? Because again, they weren't part of the actual riots. That was the problem. Various levels of criminality that happened on January 6th, going all the way up to, assault, seditious conspiracy, and then, of course, just parading and picketing on the Capitol grounds. Again, they shouldn't have been there on January 6th, and they shouldn't have been, from a law standpoint, right, inside the Capitol building to demonstrate. Okay, and that's about all they have in common here. Again, what happened here with the pro-Palestinian protesters is way different than the ones who assaulted police officers, vandalized premises, stole lecterns, and swiped even Nancy Pelosi's laptop. Not only that, but they, again, part of the vandalism, literally smeared feces all over the walls and the floors. Okay? Now, the courts are still punishing people based on the severity of the crimes that happened on January 6th. Parading and picketing inside of a Capitol building is one of the low-level misdemeanors. So these protesters, now the protesters in the Capitol building on Tuesday, again, pro-Palestinians, they were doing something called civil disobedience. Now that's a valid protest tactic that has been used effectively throughout history in order to get out a message. Now, if that's all that January 6th was, then it wouldn't have been as big of a deal, right? If you had a few hundred, MAGA supporters that were holding signs saying, oh, Trump this, whatever, Trump, not fair what happened to Trump, or do a recount the votes or whatever, I'd be like, okay, this is ridiculous, but all right, you have the freedom to do that, and except, if you're in the Capitol building, parading and picketing, you're going to get arrested. Okay. That's not what happened on January 6th. Rioters violently stormed the Capitol and illegally broke through barricades before entering the building. There's a lot of video of it. Some of them were armed. Some of them used those weapons against police officers. Not the same as what happened here. Here, everybody went through security first. They went through weapons screening. They didn't have any weapons. And then they went in, and then they, did their chants and got their signs out and did, again, civil disobedience. But in her tweet, Marjorie Greene writes, "Insurrection happening now at the Capitol. Is that Linda Sarsour leading the pro-Hamas and anti-Israel insurrectionists? Very serious ties to terrorists and progressive Democrats. If it's her, arrest them and throw them all in the DC GULAG in solitary confinement, just like J6ers." Now, look, I mentioned that, and this was very early on in the January 6th coverage, I mentioned that, hey, look, you shouldn't put anybody in solitary confinement because that's literal torture, right? I don't care if you're a January 6th insurrectionist, I don't care, right? Don't put people in solitary confinement. That is literal torture. We shouldn't be doing that. So, okay. But here's Marjorie Greene saying, oh, no, no, no. If one of us had to go through it, then we're going to do it to you. See, that's how you know she's a garbage person, right? See, a good person would see an injustice happening to somebody and say, I don't want that to happen to them. I don't want that to happen to anybody. But Marjorie Greene sees it and says, oh, well, some of our, January 6 people ended up in solitary confinement. Well, that's okay. We're going to do it to you then. No. Now, Rogan O'Hanley, also known as DC Drano, made identical commands within minutes of Greene's posts, saying Linda Sarsour and her band of anti-Semites are now... Let me just stop there and just say how funny it is and ironic that you have right-wingers out there talking about how suddenly they hate anti-Semitism. Really? Bro, really? Come on. Now, he said they're insurrecting the Capitol. Will the DOJ lock them up and throw them in the DC GULAG like J6ers? Or do we not have equal justice in this country? Well, first of all, they got arrested, and yes, they're likely going to go spend a little time in jail and then get charges. And you know what? That was kind of the point, right? Because it got attention. Now, another Republican representative, this is Mary Miller of Illinois, wrote in response to Greene's post, pro-Hamas insurrectionists are storming the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. Not storming. They're not storming. They, again, literally went through security, orderly, and then was like, okay, now we're going to do our parade and picketing. Okay. No, she said, we were told for 3 years that this is a serious federal offense. It's a low-level misdemeanor. That must be prosecuted for idea the DOJ. Will the FBI be rounding them up at their homes? Why? They already got arrested. Solitary confinement? Will Biden DOJ prosecute? Now, look, I love how they have no nuance here whatsoever. They see this as 100% the same. Ridiculous, right? Again, January 6 people were protesting and rioting in the hopes that they could overturn the election that Trump lost. That's it. Pro-Palestinian protesters, they want to see an end to the bombing of Gaza that has killed close to 20,000 people. Many of them are children. I would say, just based on the merits of what they're protesting by themselves, I would say, that pro-Palestinian protesters have a much better case. Because, you're protesting, hey, let's get an end to the death and end to the violence. Whereas, again, you have these right-wingers that are like, I didn't lose. Okay, man. Sure. Look, here's the thing, though. The continued violence that's going on in Gaza, bombing by Israel, actually makes Israel less safe. I've never heard of actually bombing your way to peace. Okay? It never works. The longer this goes on, the less chance you have of actually creating a lasting peace in the region, which is kind of what Netanyahu doesn't want to do. He doesn't want to create a peace in the region. It's ethnic cleansing to get the group of millions of Palestinians out so they could do whatever they want with Gaza. Put in Israeli settlers, take it over, take whatever resources are there, just getting them out. That's a huge problem. That is ethnic cleansing. But look, here's the thing, though. Okay, getting back to the protesters. Notice how I'm not saying that protesters shouldn't be arrested. I didn't say that. Look, they did break the rules, right? And here's the thing. They did it on purpose to make a point, okay? The pro-Palestinian protesters put themselves on the line. They put their freedom on the line. They put their bodies on the line, okay? And that shows how much these protesters care about their cause. And they did it non-violently. That is worthy of respect. That is the history of non-violent civil disobedience. And it's a wonderful history, and it's a wonderful thing, and that is how you do a protest. Yes, of course, you are breaking the law because you are parading and picketing, but you're doing it for a reason. And you have accepted those consequences. And that, again, is worthy of respect because you're getting, the hope is to get eyes on your message. Why would people do this? What kind of message are they trying to send? Oh, it looks like they're trying to bring attention to, the thousands of children that have been killed by Israeli bombs. Boy, that sounds like it's pretty important. Maybe we should look into it a little bit more. Or maybe we should, stand up against that and try to push for a peaceful option. Okay? That's worthy of respect. You want to compare that to the many January 6ers who straight up lied about why they were there in the first place. Remember, we were just tourists. Oh, I was checking out the art. Oh, really? Oh, I thought we were allowed to be in here. Again, legit, like real excuses that they use. One was like, I got lost. Oh, was I in the Capitol building? Oh, I thought it was somewhere else. And of course, my favorite, I was just defending the muffins.